raises a question. So, you had mentioned that, the Earth is possibly this limitless expanse where we don't know the end to, and these other, and if we want to believe these extraterrestrials are demonic in nature, why do we have to summon them to be seen? Because we talked about how Aleister Crowley summoned one to see it. We're talking about how King Solomon summoned one so that he could see it. Why is it that we can't just see these beings plainly? Why do they have to be summoned from outside of these, if we want to call them from outside of the ice wall, these extraterrestrials, why do we have to do these rituals to summon them? Why can't we just see them as plainly as we can see each other around this table right now?
I'm not sure. Why are the Satanists into killing people to get more power? I don't know. It's demonic, and I have a feeling that they're not allowed to communicate with us unless we do summon them.
I think there's different levels of demons too. There's Nephilim, which are basically wandering spirits now. There's the actual demons, which, and then there's the Watchers. Back in Vietnam, they developed a night vision goggle that was completely in red spectrum rather than green.
I've heard about this, yeah.
And a lot of the troops would see demonic creatures when they would put this apparatus on their head, and they start firing away trying to kill these beings, and their superiors were asking them questions like, "What are you doing? You're shooting at another helicopter, you're shooting at another person," and like, "Well, don't you see that over there?" And,
right.
Wildly firing out the side of the
I think a lot of these
demons
a lot of these demons are actually here. We just can't see them because our eyes see in a green spectrum, and there's like a level of our vision. Our light vision only sees this much when the whole spectrum is like this big. And we can't see over here. Over here, we can only see this narrow spectrum of light.
Yeah, so kind of a la They Live.
Yo, man.
Put these on.
It's such a good movie. I feel like there's so much truth to that movie. I know.
Oh, yeah. I think John Carpenter was trying to tell us something.
Yeah.
Yeah, John Carpenter, yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously, if you get into, the knowledge of the Hollywood elites and stuff like that, they have a much deeper knowledge and things that they try to show us through commercial films and things like that.
Well, they're all Masons. They're all Masons. We're ruled by Masons, the whole world. Every government is. They're in the Illuminati.
They're the man behind the throne.
Yeah, I call it the Worldwide Church of Satan because it really is. It's very evil.
Well, and so I'm gonna go on a limb for a second, but I
just did.
Yeah, well, it reminds.
I'm doing this whole
time. It reminds me of I know Book of Enoch is not supposed to be scripture, but some of the stuff about the fallen teaching men technology. Yes. It's interesting that we have this advanced technology that can see that stuff. Right. Where did we get that knowledge? We shouldn't have that knowledge. We're not supposed to see that.
Well, they got rid of that right away.
Well, it's also not in Christianity where they talk about a man receiving knowledge from things beyond, like we talk about Prometheus, the god of fire, who introduced fire to mankind and stuff like that. I believe it's New Guinea or Madagascar and the religion they believe down there, they believe that mankind was given all of these tools by, the gods from the sky and stuff like that. So there seems to be a common theme of this forbidden knowledge or inherited knowledge that was passed down from beings that we would consider greater than us or have a greater capability or a better understanding of reality than us.
Right.
Yeah, they're not gods.
False gods.
Necessarily, but...
Well, they're what our ancestors interpreted as gods because they possess such a greater power.
They appear to be gods to us because they do have powers that we don't even have a clue how powerful that is. But, they're fallen angels. I don't know. There's several categories of fallen angel, demon.
So demons and angels, just based off of what you were telling me, demons, angels, God, devil, all this stuff exists in the same plane of reality as us.
I believe so.
But there is, based on, what we can perceive with our human eyes and our human mind, just like our vision and stuff like that, is it fair to say that, God, demons, it's all in this plane, but we don't necessarily have the means to see it just with the way we're physically built? Or do you think that's more of a spiritual kind of a veil?
Well, they're in a different dimension. I mean, they could be right here next to us, but you won't be able to see them.
It's a veil. I call it a veil.
Yeah, I would think a veil is better because it's
something you can push through, but you can't get through.
Right, and sometimes some people can see through sometimes children can see things because they're not taught
100%.
not to see things.
Yeah.
Later, oh, that's just your imagination. Oh, you don't.
That's your imaginary friend,
That's
you
your
know.
imaginary friend. Maybe it's not your imaginary friend. Maybe, what is your imaginary friend? Well, wait, you shouldn't know about that. Somebody with a higher intelligence is speaking to that 3-year-old.
Right, it's interesting you should mention children because the Bible mentions like children are closer to the kingdom of God. I don't know if you know much about the Dead Sea Scrolls, but in the Dead Sea Scrolls there was the Book of Adam and Eve 1 and the Book of Adam and Eve 2, and after man had sinned, Adam was questioning Eve. Look at these bodies we're in. Look at them. Look at the eyes. We used to behold angels with these eyes, and now we got these physical eyes. We can't see the angels. We can't communicate with them anymore. So after man fell, I believe we obtained these physical bodies. We had more of a celestial body before Adam and Eve had sinned, and all the celestial that they had before we don't have anymore. We can't see the celestial anymore. We can't communicate with God or the angels like Adam and Eve once could. And
But obviously, just because we can't see it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist.
exactly, yeah.
I mean, I've seen it.
Yeah,
I saw a
seen
Watcher
things.
one time.
You did.
I did when I was like 15.
Elaborate on that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I think I've told that story before.
Don't tell it again.
I remember I didn't know what it was I was young, but I came home. I would always come home and stand. I always been obsessed with like stars and space and constellations. I love it. But like I would always stand out. Like I came home from like hanging out with friends and I was standing, and I saw this thing standing on my roof, and it was very tall, and in my mind like I thought it was like a giant earwig, because it had like what I thought were like pinchers on the top of its head.
Oh,
And I just remember saying, God, what is that? And I just remember him saying, that's a watcher. And I didn't know what it meant. Never knew what it meant till like way later, years later, when I was like dealing with some stuff, like some really awful, probably some of the worst demonic stuff I ever dealt with. But like I started looking into like watchers and and all that stuff. And I saw like an artist representation of what they thought a watcher looked like, and I had like an angelic being with these huge horns, and I was like, that's what I saw. That's what I saw on my roof.
My wife saw one as well. It was a doctor. And she was walking down the hall, and my wife doesn't make stuff up. And she saw this doctor, and she looked away, and she was like, oh my God, and looked back, and he looked normal. But his arms were almost to the ground, and he was demonic looking. But it was only for a flash.
My dad had a somewhat similar experience to that. He was actually walking down at the Sinisippi bike path over here, and he said that he started looking at people, but all of their eyes looked different. Like he said, it was almost like they kind of had like raccoon paint, where it's like they were just very sunken and deep, but like they were like yellow colored. Like all these people had these yellow colored eyes, and he always told me that he was a big fan of praying while he walked. So like he would be like in physical motion, but also like mentally, spiritually going through like deep prayer and thought like that.
Yeah.
And so he started seeing this, and he's like, God, what am I looking at? And God said, these aren't people like you see them as people. Like these are watchers. These are like people that are here. You see them as people, but I'm showing you that they're not.
So they're all around us.
Right.
They
it's
are.
this idea that they're
I've never seen any of them. I've wanted to. It would probably scare the heck out of me.
That's probably why you haven't seen it, because God's protecting you from what you could.
Well,
see.
it's not as scary as you think. Like
What?
when you're seeing it, like I've seen stuff, and at the time you're not as scared as you think you would be. Like
It's kind of feel like time stands still.
yeah.
a little
Oh
bit,
yeah,
like
you're
things are
not.
just slower.
Yes, you're not like. It's like you're not here anymore. You're like maybe seeing. Because I've had a few times where like it's like time stands still, and I'm like in the same realm as this
Okay.
thing.
Well, it's
and I
very possible that the veil's thinner there. You're
Yeah,
in
I don't know why.
A portal of some kind.
Something.
There's just
I don't want to go off track too much, but
Yeah.
you know about the reptilians, right?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
See, that could be a whole episode. in
we
and
did
of
a reptilians episode.
Did you?
We did. We did.
Yeah. That's what I think my wife saw. You
A
know?
reptilian, a shapeshifter.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I believe.
Well, that's what people talk about a lot, is that you don't necessarily see, an 8-foot lizard walking around, but you'll see like just features that seem distortedly human, or
Yeah.
just something where
Yeah.
they'll just see it for like a brief second, like they'll look and they'll see the true face, but then they
Yeah.
look again and it just looks like a person.
I believe in it. I don't like to go too deep into it because I don't have any proof.
Above Majestic, There's a guy on there. I forgot what his name is. William something. He's an older guy. Man, the stories. This guy is like in his 90s, but he's sharp as a tack, and he tells. He went to the bases in Antarctica. He saw like all the different, like he said, there's like tons of different races of extraterrestrials and the reptilians
I
are the
gotta
bad
watch
ones.
this
Dude,
now.
but his name is I forgot his- William something, but like he's got books. I've listened to like there's like 2 or 3 3-hour podcasts with this
Wow.
guy, and he recalls it like it's nothing, and you're just like he says it with such distinction that you're just like, okay, all right, this guy
Yeah.
saw something,
Yeah.
and it wasn't a realm; it was here. He saw something that was here.
Yeah. Well, there's no doubt that we have that around us, even though I've never seen it. I mean, I have no doubt that it's real.
There are some animals that are more in tune to that as well.
Yes.
They've even actually bred some to be. Trying to think, the Lhasa Apso is one that is supposed to be able to see more spiritual beings.
Well, and you hear all the time about how, you know, animals will be barking at something or something like that. You'll see like herd animals or like insects get affected before like global events. It's almost like animals are more in tune with that side of reality than we
Even
are.
earthquakes or those kind of
Right,
things.
yeah. Like you hear about zoo animals freaking out in California
right.
before an earthquake out there.